Assassin's Creed Syndicate came out right as criticism of the franchise was at its highest, before the inevitable shift to an RPG-focused direction, which is now currently criticised the same or worse. I've reviewed pretty much every Assassin's Creed game now, apart from Syndicate, and Syndicate was the one game in the franchise I could barely remember anything about when I played it in 2015. I remembered a simple, average experience with little creativity and a story that was lacking in any sort of emotional response from my 15-year-old self. So when I say I really enjoyed Syndicate, I'm as surprised as you are, to be honest, because Syndicate is certainly not flawless, but I think I've got a little sweet spot for it. I'm going to try a whole new structure to these reviews, starting with Syndicate, so we're going to be talking about narrative, combat, stealth, customization, world building, along with anything else that comes to mind, just to streamline it a little bit so you can skip to the bits you really care about rather than just story and gameplay. So sit back, go make a cup of tea since it's set in London, and enjoy the review. Assassin's Creed Syndicate's story is pretty average. It lacks any sort of connection to previous Assassin's Creed games apart from one or two Easter eggs, while also failing to deliver a new cast of characters or plot lines that are actually intriguing and emotionally satisfying. We follow our two main assassins, Jacob and Evie Fry, who are focused on liberating London from Templar influence while also searching for a first civilization artifact known as the Shroud. As we follow these two, we meet a few different characters, some made up for the story and others are historical figures, and we'll get into those figures in just a second because I think they went down the wrong route when using historical figures. Our two main characters, Jacob and Evie Fry, are twins, but most of the time when it comes to story you'll be forced to play as Jacob, and well, Jacob is just one of the most uninteresting characters in the franchise, I think. He's basically just a dumb clown who only cares about his own ego and his own quests. That's kind of his character, there isn't much else there, but he doesn't really develop throughout the story, and honestly I would have preferred to play as Henry Green, who's actually a side character we see throughout this short story.
You're not aiming high enough. Starrick has influence in every branch of society. We need to match him.
I see what you're saying, Evie. We need the rooks.
You are not starting a gang.
Evie, however, is a more relatable character in my opinion. She's driven by a goal that is more important than herself and is overall just a more likeable character. She's level-headed and charismatic and really should have been the only character we follow, but we all know why Ubisoft didn't like that idea now, don't we?
Coincidence? I think not!
Jacob's voice actor isn't bad, but what he was given to work with was pretty cringy and just really one-dimensional. I think we all have seen the meme about Assassin Christmas, like, come on.
Ken, what's this, Greenie? Assassin Christmas.
That being said, he's more interesting than the villains. The villains are just really boring. I can't remember any of them apart from the main one called Starrick, mainly because he's constantly mentioned, but he really is nothing but just another Templar obsessed with power. There's no interesting motivations or anything like that. I really thought we were past that by now, you know, oh, I just want to control everything. Oh, I thought there'd be a bit more nuance to his character, but apparently not. It's not all bad though, the story itself, while not great, isn't awful. It's easy to follow and to the point. There's no real fluff to pad out the game's length, and honestly I kinda like that. There are some memorable moments like the opening train mission where it all goes tits up and you get the title drop. The title drop could have been better though. And there's a few other missions where you're like, oh that's cool, like when you first get the grappling hook, well I don't even know what to call it, it's like a grappling hook inside the hidden blade or a gauntlet, and when you first get it, it's pretty cool. I know it takes away from the parkour, but we'll get to that. Assassin's Creed Syndicate really is just an average Assassin's Creed game when it comes to story, so the sooner we move on the better. Combat got a full overhaul after the criticisms of Unity's buggy combat system. This time around it's sort of a mix of Arkham style countering while incorporating some beat 'em up elements. The first thing you'll notice is that enemies take significantly more damage and can be quite spongy, which is definitely not the usual Assassin's Creed combat we all remember, but I personally really enjoy this change. Sure, it can get tedious, but I don't think the combat system got the credit it deserved when it released back in 2015. I think we were all just burned out from Assassin's Creed. You can damage multiple enemies at the same time to create some really cool kill animations, mix it up with some guns, you could drop a smoke bomb to get some quick stuns in, or use hallucinogenic darts to make them turn on each other. Sure, it's not the most in-depth combat system, but it really is all about personal preference when it comes to the Assassin's Creed franchise at this point. The problems start to appear when it comes to weapon selection. This is the worst weapon selection since Assassin's Creed 1. You have 3 weapons, your knuckles, a kukri, which is just a big old fashioned knife, and a cane that happens to have a small sword or spike or whatever in it. So 3 weapons to choose from, which is pretty bad, but it gets worse. They play the exact same. Spam attack and then finish the enemies, but the kukri is more lethal, whereas the cane is more about style, but they all play the same. And well, your knuckles are just knuckles, mate. You punch fast and you punch hard. That's it. So while I really like this combat system over Origins or Assassin's Creed 3, that's just my personal preference. And honestly, it really is one of the worst combat systems in Assassin's Creed, but I genuinely really like it. I don't really know why, but, you know, it just looks cool, and it isn't overly focused on, you know, really cool animations every single time. You have to build up towards it. That's my problem with the Assassin's Creed Kenway saga, is everything was about cool animation. There was nothing else to it. As I said, it's not the most in-depth combat system. Assassin's Creed Unity really felt like what a combat system should be in an Assassin's Creed game. It's just a shame it was so buggy, so let's hope this new rumoured Assassin's Creed Mirage is more like Unity than other Assassin's Creed games. But like I said, I do enjoy this combat system, but I know the majority of people really disagree with me on that, so I'm not going to keep my hopes up that it returns. Stealth is surprisingly good if you're looking for a decent Ubisoft experience. It's far better than the RPG trilogy, and it's way better than the Ezio trilogy and the Kenway saga, but it's not incredible. You do have a crouch button, thank god, and you have a few different options to tackle objectives: smoke bombs, throwing knives, hallucinogenic darts, along with the grapple hook to make verticality a much better option. The grapple hook, while destroying the free running and parkour aspect, really helps the stealth, as it's far easier to air assassinate and get straight back up to a advantage point, allowing you to pick off targets with ease. It just makes the whole loop so much more satisfying and efficient. Efficient's a good word for it. Enemy AI is really dumb though. Like every Assassin's Creed game, they don't have any brain cells, will stare at their dead friends' bodies in confusion and carry on with their day. I said the stealth was better than all Assassin's Creed games, and I'm not lying to you, it's just that it's so unbelievably easy to beat the previous Assassin's Creed games. It's not a high bar to achieve. That's about it though. It's your classic Assassin's Creed stealth experience, but with a few extra options like smoke bombs, throwing knives, etc. that are really useful this time around and can offer some creative opportunities for once. Along with the stealth experience being slightly better, there's also different challenges this time around. So the side missions, there's a side mission where you have to do a bounty hunt and you can kill the target or you can kidnap them. So you have to be really stealthy about it and pick off your targets one by one to create an opportunity to take your target without killing him to get the max reward. And I really like that. That's stuff that Assassin's Creed should lean into more, because it actually requires some thinking, some planning, some assassinating, if you know what I mean. It's just a little annoying that the games decide to go more down a combat route rather than a stealth route, but you know, that's just me. Side content is about as Assassin's Creed as you can get. You have bases to take out, bounties to capture or kill, and people to liberate all across London, and I think it's 6 or 7 boroughs, so there's 6 or 7 different sections across London that you have to liberate. You also have side missions with historical figures, which are cool, but are just super gimmicky. The missions themselves are nothing special, but it's like Ubisoft said, let's cram every single historical figure in as possible, while forgetting that Assassin's Creed isn't about that really. It's just supposed to be a backdrop for all the assassin stuff, but you know, that's more of a nitpick. I know a lot of people actually did like that. The content is good but repetitive. If you don't enjoy Assassin's Creed mission design, you will hate this game with a passion, because it really is just a lot of clearing out bases and climbing viewpoints. I really like the addition of the grapple hook though. I remember it being super controversial, especially when it got revealed before even people got a chance to play it, but comparing a hook to what we have today in Valhalla and Odyssey, I just don't care. It's a really fun little addition that adds a few more options to how you tackle objectives, and adds a lot more verticality, or makes it more efficient to use the verticality of the world. That's why I really like it. It's better than Origins, it's better than Odyssey, it's better than Valhalla. There's actually a parkour system. Sure, we don't use it a lot, but it's there. And it's fun. It's fun to move around. It's fun to traverse. I don't really know why people complain so much. Well, looking back anyway. I get it when it first came out, because that was like a really big departure from the series, but you know, I like it. The city of London is fantastic though. It may not be the best setting for an Assassin's Creed game, but man, the world designers did a phenomenal job with London. It feels lived in, with something new around every corner. There are kids begging in the streets and sleeping in crashed carriages, people going about their day in shops and riding around on carriages with horses, and people getting robbed and intimidated, among so many other moments. It sounds great and still looks pretty great. It doesn't look as good as Paris, don't get me wrong, but no one can deny that the Unity engine was simply incredible for rebuilding cities. And I could see why Ubisoft really pushed for having Origins being an educational possibility to explore ancient Egypt when their worlds are just so meticulously crafted. It's just great what they can pull off. Listen, I'm well aware this is one of the most disliked games of the franchise, but I personally really like it. The combat really scratches that itch for me, and the stealth, while a Ubisoft game, is still satisfying enough throughout this 10 to 15 hour game. I'd say it's worth buying at a discount price. I'd say £15, or just get Ubisoft Connect on PC for a month and play through it. It's not one of those games that you'll be pining to play, as there are plenty of far better games out there, but hey, it's still worth giving a shot if you missed it back in 2015. If Syndicate isn't really scratching that itch for you, maybe there'll be another game that I've reviewed, which you can check out here. Thank you for watching.